In a world where the gods hand out gifts like candy, not everyone gets a sweet deal. So pay attention to the plot, bro, and don't get hard over her ripe mangoes. You got the useless fodder tier, the basic normie tier, and then the ultra-rare bloodline and legendary SSR drops. If you roll 0 gifts, you are literally treated like walking trash. Kings and nobles flex their broken builds by declaring war and invading every server they can find. It is a total sweat fest. Back in the day, our hero's unboxing went horribly wrong. The priestess checks his stats and realizes his only gift is hearing. His dad Orpheus immediately starts frustrating. Bro is fuming because he min-maxed his marriage just to breed an elite heir. Now he is crying that his legacy is ruined. He straight up tells the mom to hand the baby over so he can delete the file. The absolute disrespect. His wife Philia literally starts coughing blood while begging this toxic tryhard to spare her kid. She physically shields the baby, taking a massive emotional toll. Her desperate pleas barely convince this deadbeat dad to cancel the spawn kill. Fast forward 5 years and our boy is locked in a solitary confinement tower. He is just sitting there thanking his mom for the revive while testing out his HD audio drivers to spy on the outside world. When his mom visits, she brings some massive maternal buffs to the room. Look at the absolute suspension on that dress. She asks if he is eavesdropping on the neighbors again. R says the tower is boring, so she drops some literacy lessons on him. She is super frail and only visits a few times a month, but those are the only times bro feels peace. Then he uses his radar to check her heartbeat because she looks pale. She gets totally flustered thinking her son is worried. His mom hands him a little paper craft hoping to fix the family drama. Philia forces a smile and says she enchanted it to help him and his dad get along. But as soon as she turns around, she violently coughs blood right into her hand. She hides it like a champ, tells him to stay well, and dips. Out in the hall, she runs into her toxic husband. He roasts her for wasting time on a defective NPC. She claps back asking if he is jealous of a 5-year-old. She drops a heavy quote about talent not mattering, and prays her death will finally change this stubborn boomer's mindset. Just several months later, the dad busts into the tower to deliver the worst patch notes ever. Philia logged off permanently. He casually drops the news and calls his son stupid for not knowing. Then he reveals his true colors. He completely ignores his dead wife's wishes and instantly drags Ars to the torture chamber. He straps him to a table and starts zapping him with forbidden magic, trying to artificially recode his DNA. Bro is literally getting electrocuted just so his dad can salvage his fragile ego. Ars is chained to the wall apologizing to his dead mom, but he actually hacked the system. His trash hearing gift let him listen to the frequencies of magic. He basically pirated the entire world's magical library over Bluetooth, and since he inherited his mom's bottomless mana pool, he is secretly stacked. 10 years go by, he realized the torture was pointless, but the quiet tower was the perfect environment to passively farm global XP. Now bro is sitting there with maxed out stats and 0 attachment to his toxic family. His only issue is he hasn't touched grass in a decade, and doesn't know how to throw actual hands. The dad walks in carrying a single stale dinner bun like he is feeding a stray dog. He calls Ars a freeloader and announces he finally rolled a better SSR son. Since the new heir is secured, he tells Ars his free trial on life is over. Ars just smirks and says the timing is perfect. He casually snaps his steel chains like they are wet spaghetti. The dad is absolutely flabbergasted. Ars tells him goodbye, charges up a massive magic circle, and straight up nukes the reinforced tower wall. Dust and debris fly everywhere as the so-called incompetent son flexes his god-tier spellcasting. The dad is stuttering, swearing the barrier was just reinforced yesterday. Ars just drops the mic saying he learned everything he could from this starter zone. He wants to go hunt demon lords and find the absolute pinnacle of magic. He jumps out the hole, leaving his dad screaming into the void. Cut to the forest and we got a blonde princess named Yulia running for her life. She immediately trips over a magical vine and puts a whole pair of juicy peaches on glorious display. Stop pausing, bro. She's 2D, and you're still single. 5 creepy hooded goons surround her. She tries to play it off like she is just out for a stroll. The squad leader with the nasty face scar tells her to surrender because they have imperial orders to bag her. Yulia realizes these dudes have some highly questionable intentions buried under their orders. She plays the damsel in distress, asking them to remove the vines so she can walk peacefully. These simps actually buy it and dispel the magic. Yulia instantly whips out a hidden blade and slices the leader's face open, but she is outnumbered. The other goons get furious and order the squad to chop off her limbs, saying they can just heal her back up at the capital. Right as a sword comes swinging down to end her career, the blade magically shatters into pieces. Our boy Ars steps out of the bushes shirtless, looking like a homeless Chad, and casually asks for directions. He drops his name and instantly roasts these sweaty Imperial Knights for ganging up on one single girl. The squad leader is already leaking blood from his mouth and completely loses his mind in pure rage. He throws a totally embarrassing punch at Ars, but our guy just dodges it without even blinking. The blonde girl is sitting there totally shocked because this absolute madman just cast a heavy spell without saying a single word. Ars peers at the crushed body in the dirt and looks genuinely bored, complaining that was literally his weakest trick. The surviving bozos start sweating rivers but try to cope hard by claiming they can still jump him since he only uses basic wind magic. But Ars is already tired of playing with these absolute NPCs and summons a wild dark magic circle out of thin air. He casts Shadow Impact, leaving the blonde girl absolutely shook because nobody is supposed to have two different elements. Before the knights can even react, they drop straight to their knees, completely paralyzed and crying literal black blood from their eyes. Ars just stands over their broken bodies and casually explains his dark magic is directly melting their brains with pure terror. Wee breaks it down quickly, saying the attack bypassed their trash shields by hitting their ears and shaking the ground. Realizing the dudes are totally broken and deaf, Ars turns his back and whines about how these weaklings are completely useless for testing his stats. Shifting over to the tree, Ars kneels right next to the blonde girl to inspect her heavy metal cuffs, getting a glorious front row view of those absolute heavy-duty airbags. He completely ignores the heavy plot, slaps a glowing magic circle on her wrists, and shatters her restraints instantly with a raw spell. The blonde girl is absolutely drooling over his raw talent now, completely mesmerized that he breaks high-class tools without chanting. They finally dip from the messy forest, and she starts stressing out that attacking Imperial Knights is going to bring massive heat down on his family. Ars just brushes off her panic and quickly spills his tragic childhood trauma like it is just some casual street gossip. He explains he was tossed out of his noble house for having a useless ability, so he just walked away like a very confident and cool guy. Yui angrily clutches her twin treasures, completely short-circuiting. Magic development is illegal, but bro is casually explaining it like it's nothing. Ars is just standing there looking chill, totally stoked that this random girl is getting angry on his behalf. He realizes he hasn't even properly introduced himself and drops his name. The blonde giant immediately responds with her full title, Yuria de Villieu. Ars strokes his chin, instantly remembering that Villieu is a whole entire country that got violently wiped off the map by the Earth Empire. Ars spots the royal emblem on her shoulder and realizes he just picked up a literal stray princess in the woods. He asks if he should start using royal titles, but Yuria gets super depressed, saying her kingdom is burnt toast and her escaping was pure dumb luck. She looks down, cringing hard as she remembers getting tied up in the back of a wagon like premium imported cargo. Ars agrees they need to dip from this messy area immediately before more guards show up. Yuria asks for his destination, and the scene shifts to a massive walled fortress known as the City of Magic. Idris explains this giant wizard hub is the absolute center of the world for magic nerds, and he needs to track someone down there. Yuria suddenly steps right up into his personal space, letting those heavy lifters bounce a bit, and practically begs him to let her tag along. Ars strictly warns her that walking around with a wanted Imperial fugitive is going to bring massive heat down on his head. Yuria nervously agrees, admitting she was already planning to run there anyway, but since the Magic City is totally independent neutral ground, Ars decides to risk the drama and agrees to take her. Yuria is absolutely glowing, thanking him profusely like he just paid off all her credit card debt. Ars hits her with that smooth hobo charm, saying traveling as a duo is way better than walking alone, and he is looking forward to it. They finally hit the dirt trail, calculating it is about a one-day walk to reach the giant city. While they stroll, Yuria gets super curious and asks what his actual innate gift is, since he was just spamming multiple crazy elements earlier. Ars instantly looks like he wants to jump off a cliff, sweating and deadpanning that his only gift is literally just hearing. Yuria is completely mind-blown, acting like the math is simply not mathing because having good ears does not let you cast raw destruction. Ars gets a quick flashback to his edgy childhood, explaining his ears just eventually figured out how to use real magic, though even he does not know how his own brain works. He complains bitterly that having HD audio is a totally trash ability in this ruthless world. But Yuria just smiles like an absolute saint, clutching her massive plot armor right in front of him, and tells him his worthless gift is exactly what saved her life. The meanwhile, he finally switches the topic and asks the blonde princess what her actual gift is. She flashes a massive bright smile and reveals she holds the magic system of light, asking if the holy vibe suits her, even though you think her mangoes suit her better, but whatever. Ars completely smooth talks her, saying it is the perfect match for a royal, while secretly sweating because light is literally a one-of-a-kind legendary power. Before he can even process this crazy revelation, Yuria immediately summons a glowing white ball right in her hands to flex her rare abilities. Ars brutally rejects the trap, scratching his head and complaining that flashing her magic is basically sending a homing beacon to their enemies. He straight up tells her it sounds like way too much of a hassle to deal with. Yuria just giggles at his lazy attitude as the sky turns orange. Ars decides the sun is setting fast, so they need to set up camp before pushing toward the border. Out of nowhere, a massive butcher knife slams violently into a log with a loud thud. Ars is just sitting there holding the giant blade and a single tiny carrot with absolutely dead eyes. Yuria is screaming his name in pure terror, begging him to stop and let her handle the food prep. Ars casually asks if she even knows how to cook. She happily clutches her chest, bragging that she is a master at making sweets. Ars grabs some kitchen utensils and confidently states he's starting a fire. Our blonde bakery instantly calls him an idiot, asking how he expects to spark a flame with a fork and knife. She hands over 2 flintstones, questioning how he survived prison without knowing basic fire making. Bro hits her with the saddest flex because he never needed it. His captors only fed him stale scraps. Yulia sighs and offers to light it together, so this absolute menace slides right behind him, wrapping her arms around him and pressing those twin water bags directly into his spine. The fire is finally blazing high, and Ars sits back, totally surprised that the pampered princess got used to the dirt so fast. Yuria proudly winks and points her finger, bragging that a special maid taught her all these rough outdoor survival tricks. Ars gets a mental image of a strict maid. Yuria then grabs the massive cleaver and starts chopping thick vegetables with absolutely flawless, zero hesitation technique. Ars watches her cook, genuinely impressed by her polished knife skills. Sitting under the moonlight, she was actually surprised when he touched the restraints earlier because they were fully loaded with deadly trap magic. Yuria totally freezes in shock. Ars explains he easily deleted the explosive traps, but notes the cuffs were already brittle from her trying to break them. Yuria finishes cooking, but one look at the dish has Ars completely short-circuiting in confusion. Yui starts nervously clapping her hands, finally confessing that her strict maid actually did all the cooking back home. Ars is just staring at his fork holding a literal block of black toxic sludge that looks like a graveyard of cursed ingredients. He totally ignores the biohazard warning, takes a massive bite, and completely surprises this weeping princess by saying it actually slaps. He casually tells her to eat up before it gets cold while she sits in the dirt, looking utterly defeated by her own culinary failure. Wiping away a tiny tear of joy, Yuria thanks him profusely for not spitting out her poisonous cooking. The camera pans out to them, chilling by the crackling campfire, casually slurping down bowls of that dark mystery stew. The blonde Gaiet freezes up, like he just asked for her internet search history. Ars breaks the cozy silence, reminding her about her promise to guide him to the magical city. She explaining that her sister actually runs a whole entire guild out in the magic capital. Ars takes another sip of his stew and casually asks if this mystery sister is packing a legendary broken gift just like her. Yuria shakes her head and reveals that her sister Karen holds the bloodline gift of flame, which is basically regular fire on absolute steroids. I know what you're thinking. If the heroine has a bakery, her sister has definitely a whole dairy farm. Alzer immediately connects the dots in his head, realizing there is zero chance the Toxic Earth Empire would ever ignore 2 insanely overpowered royal sisters. Yuria ignores the heavy political tension, while saying they only exchange letters and she desperately wants a family reunion. Smiling brightly as she says she is super hyped to officially introduce Ars to her sister. Hearing this, our boy instantly wants to meet her. Bro is really out here trying to own the whole bakery dairy franchise. Well, Ars dusts off his hands and says it is time to push toward the border. Yuria totally agrees, clutching her chest and reminding him they are still deep in enemy territory. Ars suddenly side-eyes her waist, noticing she actually looted a heavy sword off the ginger knight he clapped earlier. He asks if she even knows how to swing that thing. Yuria just drops a confident smirk, bragging that despite looking like a pampered princess, her sword game is actually top tier. Yuria, she starts coping hard, claiming if the Empire had not completely locked down her gift and stolen her weapon, she never would have been captured. Ars immediately gets stars in his eyes, staring at her with pure hype and saying he cannot wait to see her flex those sword skills. Yuria starts sweating under his intense gaze, praying she does not actually embarrass herself in front of this overpowered hobo. They keep walking into the dark woods and Ars notices she is not even tired, but he still offers to set up camp so she can rest. Yuria tells him not to hold back on her account, flexing that her royal boot camp training keeps her stamina totally built different. Dilhado, he calmly states that monsters get super bold at night. Suddenly, Ars twitches as his hearing gift picks up something massive moving through the bushes. Before Ars can even decide how to handle the wild encounter, a massive shadowy beast lunges straight out of the trees. Yuria instantly draws her stolen blade and rips a flawless slash right through the air, cleanly separating the monster's head from its body. Before they can even celebrate the quick kill, 2 more absolute units of hellhounds step out of the shadows, Ars casually pointing out they definitely walked right into the wrong neighborhood. One of the overgrown puppies decides to jump off a rock for a sneak attack, leaving Yui with absolutely zero choice but to throw hands. In a glorious spray of dark blood, blood splashes right across Ars's cloak, but he just watches quietly as Yui stands tall, gripping her sword and locking onto her next targets, before 2 more rabid hounds charge her from the trees. She unleashes a wild flurry of multi-slashes, turning the angry wolves into literal chopped meat while leaving a massive trail of blood. Ars is not about to let this blonde Gaiet steal all his free XP, so he casually drops to the dirt and unleashes a massive double element spell. He mixes wind and raw force together without even speaking a single word, absolutely vaporizing the remaining hellhounds into dark mist. Watching his chantless magic, Yulia's eyes popped out exactly how yours are popping out at her plot right now. Ars just stands up like he took out the trash and casually points out that the whole wild dog pack is finally wiped. Yulia is amazed he defeated everyone in a second, while Ars is impressed she fought without even using her magic. She starts fidgeting and blushing super hard, hoping she did not look like an absolute unhinged psycho while sheathing her bloody sword. Shifting deeper into the dark woods, Ars decides it is time to crash and points out the dead monster heat will keep the chill away. Yuri is holding her heavy cloak and asks if he needs it, but Ars plays the tough guy and tells the princess to keep it. This absolute menace decides to shoot her shot, sliding right up against him and saying they should cuddle tightly under the fur to share body heat. Bro is getting full VIP treatment, even though his ugly face does not match his insane luck. Sitting closely under the moonlight, Yuria brings up their final destination and asks who he is actually hunting in the Magic City. Ars drops his edgy anime protagonist face and says he is looking for Mimir, the absolute strongest wizard in the entire server. He clenches his fist hard, declaring he wants to beat this top-tier boss just to prove to the whole world he actually exists. Yuri is totally moved by his massive ego trip, dropping her fancy royal titles and telling him to just call her Yuria from now on. Piaros agrees to drop the formalities, officially friend-zoning the princess while telling her to just focus on her own messy survival. Yuria violently grabs his arm anyway, pressing her absolute heavy hitters right into his side while swearing she will help him win. But then she suddenly pulls away, looking super depressed and apologizing. Her internal thoughts reveal she has been secretly testing his vibe this whole time because she hates men, and now she feels like total trash for doubting his kindness. Yuria starts crying actual tears, completely overwhelmed by her own uselessness while thanking Ars for saving her life. She promises to stick by his side through any future drama, acting like a totally loyal day one homie. Ars hits her with that smooth, casual charm, promising to always have her back because they are officially besties now. The blonde giant gets so insanely happy she immediately passes out, dropping her head and those massive twin pillows right onto his shoulder. Ars just sits there acting like a comfortable mattress, secretly admitting his real beef with the magic boss Mimir is way deeper. Ars drops his real edgy protagonist agenda. He wants to absolutely pack up Mimir, the strongest wizard alive, just to prove that a discarded trash-tier NPC can become a literal god, so all the oppressed weaklings can finally touch grass and live freely. Shifting gears over to the Earth Empire, we cut to the Megenberg mansion where Ars's toxic deadbeat dad is sweating buckets. A fancy blonde elf named Volg, one of the 10 great saints from the Holy Church, just casually invited himself over for a highly scandalous late-night chat. The elf sits on the couch sipping wine, casually dropping heavy lore about the Empire wiping out Velut just to steal the legendary light gift. He basically warns the dad that the Holy Church worships white magic and will not let the Empire keep the blonde princess like stolen loot. The dad starts gritting his teeth, claiming he is just a lowly border guard and handing her over would be betrayal to the country. The elf just smirks and hits him with the ultimate blackmail, casually bringing up his discarded son Ars and his rare hearing gift. The toxic dad instantly starts tweaking, his eyes totally shadowed out in pure panic because his darkest family secret just got leaked. The shady saint winks and promises to keep the family drama a secret, but the orph is getting angry and demands to know what the church actually wants. The elf stands up and drops an absolute nuke, revealing they have solid info that Ars is one who helped the princess escape. The toxic dad is completely cornered, realizing if the emperor finds out his trash son ruined the royal kidnapping, his entire noble bloodline is getting violently deleted. Feeling totally helpless against a top-tier holy knight, the dad just sits there looking absolutely crushed by his own karma. The elf taps his shaking shoulder from behind with a totally unhinged smile, offering to cover up the treason if the dad becomes the church's loyal little lapdog. But swallowing his massive ego, Orpheus tightly shuts his eyes and officially agrees to be the church's obedient. Voldig just flashes a wholesome fake smile, totally thrilled that his dirty blackmail worked flawlessly. Right after securing his new puppet, Volgig suddenly shifts the vibe and brings up Ars's supposedly trash hearing gift. Orph immediately gets defensive, snapping back that his discarded son is completely useless. Volg totally ignores this massive cope and asks if Orph knows about the absolute menace causing a global panic. We get a quick shot of some highly classified magic scrolls while Volg spills the tea. He reveals some unknown ghost has been effortlessly stealing the most top-secret magical data, leaving Orph totally shook as he asks if Ars is the culprit. Volg just strokes his chin looking like a total drama queen, admitting every single nation is trying to catch this thief. Volg warns that the Holy Church is heavily tracking this absolute mystery man now. The dad just starts dripping sweat, coping hard by claiming that chasing an invisible rumor is basically like trying to catch the wind. He proudly declares that every leaders of nation are hunting the absolute pinnacle of magic, the legendary ghost known as Mimir. The scene shifts to the morning sun, where our blonde bakery is finally waking up from her heavy nap in the woods. She rubs her eyes and apologizes for passing out, but Ars just plays the chill bestie, telling her not to sweat it since she was exhausted. They both dust off the dirt, and Ars points out that their final destination is literally right in front of them. A massive tower reveals called the Tower of Babel. Ars asks if this is his first time seeing it too, whining that her strict royal life kept her totally locked down. Yuria drops some heavy lore, explaining this giant structure is the absolute symbol of the Magic City and literally pierces the sky. She acts like a fancy tour guide. Ars gets totally hyped, smirking that he cannot wait to check the place out, and they start walking. They finally reach a gigantic brick gate, and Yuria casually wonders how they are supposed to get inside without spotting any guards. Suddenly, footsteps rush in from the side, totally interrupting their quiet moment. A fiery redhead packing some absolute premium dairy runs right into the frame and violently hugs our blonde princess. Yuria is totally shook, calling out her sister Karen's name while this absolute unit of a sibling cries about their fallen country. While these two massive plot holders are squishing their assets together, Ars just stands there awkwardly watching the show. Karen stares at the shabby-looking guy and asks her big sister who this suspicious man is, since he definitely doesn't look like royalty. Yuria immediately defends him, dropping his name and swearing he is the exact Chad who saved her from the Imperial goons. Corinne instantly drops the attitude, pressing her hands together and politely apologizing to Ars for the disrespect. She introduces herself as the former second princess, and flexes that she currently runs a whole entire guild in the city. Ars asking to Corinne that how a literal royal got permission to join a strictly independent magic association. Corinne reveals the family's secret, saying their weak dad was extremely worried about the Earth Empire and badly wanted secret information. She says she gave up her royal title just to enter the city secretly and protect her family from the shadows. Karen suddenly looks super depressed and crying that her sacrifice was basically useless since their kingdom got wiped anyway. Yuria instantly pulls her into a massive sisterly hug. Karen quickly wipes her tears and snaps right out of her sad girl era. She coldly declares it is time to stop standing in the dirt and officially start the city's mandatory baptism ritual. Ars looks completely lost, so the two heavy-hitting sisters start chanting some fancy cult poetry about nameless mages gathering wisdom from the gods. After finishing their creepy magic chant, Karen throws her arms wide open in front of these massive gates to welcome them. Shifting to the inside, the trio is casually strolling through the super crowded streets of the Magic City. Ars looks totally impressed, looking around and admitting this place is way bigger and louder than his trash hometown. Yuria turns to her fiery sister and asks where they are actually heading to. They pull up to a standard wooden building, and Karen drops a cute wink, bragging this is her official guild base. Yuria instantly points out it literally looks like a regular drinking tavern. Karen admits running a guild is expensive, so she sells drinks as a side hustle. Yuria gets suspicious, asking if Karen can even legally touch alcohol. This absolute bakery imagines Karen in a tight, shiny black bunny suit, serving thirsty men, making Yuria glare at her with pure disappointment. The Karen frantically waves her arms, violently blushing while coping hard that they only serve regular meals, and some bozos just get the wrong idea. She cracks the tavern door open and yells at them to stop standing around. Stepping inside, the scene immediately drops into chaos as some random NPC is actively grabbing a female worker's arm. Out of nowhere, a literal flying kitchen knife slices through the air and violently stabs into the wall right past his face. A tall girl packing some absolute premium heavy melons steps up to the terrified customer. She warned him that his thirsty behavior is strictly banned here, and her next throw might not miss. When the guest enters in the tavern, the tall girl calmly turns to welcome the royal sisters back. Yuria smiles at her old friend Elsa, while Ars quickly introduces himself as Yuria's traveling partner. Elsa instantly gets suspicious, noticing this raggedy hobo just casually dropped the princess's first name. Yuria completely defends our boy, happily bragging that Ars is the absolute Chad who saved her life. Karen throws up a finger and reveals Elsa is actually Yuria's former royal attendant. Ars gets a quick mental flashback, immediately realizing this stacked beauty is the exact strict maid. Karen then starts yapping about how amazing Elsa is, bragging that the maid literally handles cooking, cleaning, guild paperwork, and running the bar. But looking at her reminds me of Mia Khalifa's talents. Ars just turns his head and completely glares at the Karen with a face of pure, unfiltered judgment. Karen asking what his problem is, Ars just shakes his head and tells her to forget it. He secretly roasts her in his thoughts, wondering what this so-called guild master actually does if the maid carrying the entire franchise. Karen drops another wink, completely ignoring Ars's deadpan face, while bragging that all her tavern workers are actually loyal guild members. Elsa ignores the redhead's yapping and drops a respectful bow to our boy, thanking him for keeping the princess safe. But our hungry MC's eyes are just locked on her creamy buns. To show her gratitude, this absolute unit of a maid offers to cook up a fresh meal for the homeless Chad. While Karen casually asking what kind of broken magic our boy is actually hiding, Ars takes a chill sip from his cup, and claiming his only gift is just having slightly better ears. Karen looks totally disappointed, but Yuria instantly steps up to fiercely defend her man. Seeing the blonde guy act so defensive makes Karen realize there is definitely some heavy mystery hiding behind that supposedly worthless title. The redhead then starts flexing her 4th rank status, explaining the association has a ranking system, and there is 12 ranks total. She drops lore about the top dogs being called magic lords. Elsa finally drops off massive plates of hot meat skewers, apologizing that it is just basic tavern food. Ars looks at the plates with absolute stars in his eyes, getting totally emotional because this is literally his first proper meal in his entire tragic life. He takes a massive bite and smiles, while Yuria just sits there watching this raggedy hobo. Suddenly, Ars feeds Yuria a bite, making her blush instantly. Seeing this, Karen laughs and calls him a total flirt. Karan loudly complains about the maid being too strict, but the whole squad finally settles down to eat together like a weird little found family. With a massive smile, Yuria asks if Ars wants to go on a city tour tomorrow. Karan instantly ruins the cozy vibe and aggressively third wheels, loudly announcing that the entire guild is actually heading out to the Lost Lands instead. Hearing the name of that restricted zone triggers Ars's illegal mental radio, and he instantly agrees to tag along for the sketchy field trip. The Yamdaean, this massive dead zone, was once ruled by the Magic Emperor before he got violently packed up by the gods. Ars is just sitting there with his empty plate, totally deadpan, asking if they actually have to walk all the way to this ruined wasteland. Karen shakes her head and casually explains they get to fast travel using the massive teleport gate inside the Babel Tower instead. But Yuria suddenly gets worried, realizing they might have to face the Earth Empire there. Elsa quickly calms her down, promising to stay by the princess's side. After that, Karen steps in and tells everyone to get some rest. Karen suddenly asks her sister if she wants a separate bedroom from the hobo, instantly sending Yuria into a total flustered panic. The blonde bakery violently blushes and screams, of course, desperately stammering that it is not because she hates him or anything. Karen completely ignores her sister and casually leads Ars straight to his own private guest room. Ars looks totally relieved, thanking them for the space since he finally gets to sleep on a real mattress instead of the cold dirt. Kareen totally exposes her in 4K, loudly declaring that both Yuria and Ars smell like absolute street trash and desperately need a bath. Yuria turning bright red and yelling at Karen for casually dropping her hygiene stats right in front of her crush. Honestly, bro, you would probably buy her dirty bathwater anyway, but our boy Ars just stands there looking completely unfazed. Still unable to handle the sheer embarrassment, Yuria aggressively grabs Karen's cheeks and stretches them out violently. Karen whines that her big sister is acting like a total psycho and promises to come back for Ars later as she gets dragged away. Finally left alone in the quiet bedroom, he reminds himself that he has to track info about Mimir. Then our boy realizes he just touched grass for the first time, so he decides to chill and just enjoy the 3 pairs of big melons for a while. Scene shift to the bathhouse. Karen and Yuria are soaking when Elsa walks in wearing just a towel, bringing the whole bakery and dairy farm to the pool. Karen casually mentions she invited the stacked maid, while Elsa claims she came to help Yuria scrub down. Karen decides her screen time here is over and steps out of the water, giving us a full view of her flawless build. She tells her blonde sister to take her time cleaning up since the maid is on duty, and Yuria happily agrees to the VIP wash service. Meanwhile, back in the guest room, our hobo king is chilling when Karen knocks on the door. She asks if he is still awake and teases him for being dramatic about his very first real bath. Walking down the hall in their slippers, Ars casually drops the tragic lore that he only used wet towels in prison, making this his actual bath debut. Karen awkwardly listens to his sad backstory and tells him she hopes it becomes a good memory. Suddenly, Ars completely violates her personal space, leaning in dangerously close to sniff her neck like an absolute bloodhound. Karen completely short-circuits and blushes violently, while this menace casually compliments her sweet scent. She mentally panics, realizing her sister was not lying about his zero-boundary awareness. And I already told you guys before, this hungry dude is going to eat all 3 girls by himself. She then points to the soap bottles, giving him absolute basic instructions on how to use cleanser. They stop in front of a wooden door, and Karen points out the official bathroom for him. But Ars spots a second door and asks about it, forcing Karen to sweat and lie that the other bath is totally out of order. She politely begs him to just use the one she pointed at, and our clueless boy agrees. Before going in, Ars genuinely thanks her for the hospitality. Then he casually says that since they're friends now, he'll scrub her back next time. I mean, seriously, who is this wild pervert? Karen is left completely speechless. In her panic, she accidentally agrees for next time, and then runs for her life like she just spotted a naked ghost. He shrugs it off, strips his shirt off, and gets ready to scrub his sins away. Our boy slides the bathhouse door open, completely naked and ready to chill, only to spot someone already sitting in the water. He casually apologizes for crashing the session, but the fog clears to reveal Yuria hiding her chest with her mere hand. Ars just stands there with zero shame, totally unbothered, and casually explains that Karen specifically sent him to this exact room. Karen's absolute lack of reaction is honestly legendary, treating a naked princess like a regular piece of furniture. He actually thinks Karen set this up so Yui could give him a basic tutorial on how to wash himself. He proudly declares he needs to thank the redhead later for being so considerate. Yuria just sits there blushing like a ripe tomato, completely stunned by his insane logic, while sinking deeper into the water. Suddenly, the stacked maid Elsa steps right into the crossfire wearing nothing but a tiny white towel. She glares at him, demanding to know if he has absolutely anything to say for himself. Ars just casual, shameless compliment ever. Bro literally looks at both of their heavy plot armors and tells them they have fine bodies and should be super confident. Elsa instantly gets a massive vein popping on her forehead. utterly disgusted by this raggedy Rizzler casually rating their stats. Yuri is sweating rivers, nervously looking between them and realizing her strict maid is not matching Ars's 0 IQ energy. Totally ignoring the heavy death glare, Ars points to the wooden bucket of cleansers like a helpless little toddler. He looks straight at the terrifying maid and casually asks if she can teach him how to wash his own body. Elsa completely short-circuits, blushing furiously as she realizes this absolute menace is actually begging for a premium scrub-down service. Trembling with pure rage and embarrassment, Elsa screams at him that this is absolutely not that kind of place. Her massive twin airbags are practically overflowing with bubbles as she desperately tries to maintain her strict professional boundaries. Yuria just sits there awkwardly agreeing that this spicy conversation is going completely off the rails. Taking a deep breath to calm her rising blood pressure, Elsa admits she heard about his tragic backstory of being locked up. She leans in dangerously close, asking if this sheltered boy has literally ever interacted with a single woman before today. But Ars just blinks his dead eyes and drops the saddest story ever, casually admitting his dead mom was his only contact. Hearing this highly depressing server history, Elsa slaps a hand over her face and sighs in pure defeat. Acting like a tired babysitter, she firmly tells him they will have to schedule his basic life tutorials for another day. She orders the blonde bakery to pack it up and head out so she does not freeze in the open water. Yuria awkwardly grabs her towel, quickly tells Ars goodnight and tries to escape the thick tension. Ars casually waves them off, but then he drops another massive nuke, telling Elsa they should totally bathe together next time. His crazy comment made the girls slip and land on top of each other. Bro basically unlocked a live open-air Yuri show right there, and bro zooming between their legs won't help you at all. These are 2D characters, not original girls. While Elsa looks up with an intense glare and asks if he will take full responsibility, our clueless hobo instantly agrees without a single second of hesitation. Elsa quickly turns her red face away, rejecting his answer but whispering that she definitely locked in his consent anyway. Meanwhile, the bakery is panicking because Ars basically just inspected all her baked goods for free. The stack maid hugs her tight, apologizing for the mess, but secretly coping hard by reminding herself that he promised to take responsibility. Back in the water, Ars just strokes his chin again. Thinking about the maid's super flustered reaction with a totally blank face, he completely ignores the massive scandal he just caused, and happily notes that the strict Ice Queen actually has a super amusing side. Morning hits and our boy Ars is already up checking the bird spawns out his window. He strolls down the stairs looking fresh and runs straight into the fiery redhead Karen. She hits him with that sly smirk, asking if his little bathhouse adventure turned into a premium core memory. Ars casually drops an absolute tactical nuke, whispering that they should totally bathe together next time. Karen short-circuits on the spot, turning around only to find her blonde sister smiling with pure, unfiltered murderous intent. Yuri is flashing that terrifying closed-eye smile, claiming she loves seeing them act like besties but absolutely despises Karen's dirty bath prank. Karen starts sweating, desperately coping that she already apologized for setting up the spicy trap. Before a full royal sister catfight breaks out, Elsa steps in wearing her tight guild uniform. She coldly announces they are running late, acting like the ultimate plot-saving referee. Karen mentally thanks the stacked maid for saving her life, and the squad heads out. They finally pull up to this massive brick coliseum, and Ars is totally hyped to officially look at the legendary Tower of Babel. Karen suddenly shifts into lore drop mode, asking our clueless hobo if he heard about the absolute menace stealing premium data from the Magic Kings. She explains the global server is in total chaos, with the Magic Association almost throwing hands with the Holy Church. Yuria jumps in, officially dropping the hacker's username as the legendary Ghost Mimir. Ars just strokes his chin, acting totally impressed that this mystery boss is effortlessly trolling the server admins. The bro gets a quick mental flashback to his edgy tower days, secretly remembering he used his Bluetooth hearing to eavesdrop on Mimir's early crimes. Karen complains that this ghost is a massive headache, while Yuri admits she never expected a single hacker to cause so much global damage. Our boy asks if Mimir is actually camping in the Magic City, and Karen casually confirms it, and asks if he's plotting to hunt this ultimate boss. Karen finally leads the squad to a massive dark doorway, announcing they reach the fast travel gate. Ars inspects the creepy void, nerding out about how it drains player mana to operate. Right as bro is analyzing the mechanics, Karen sneaks up behind him with an absolutely devious gremlin smirk. She tells him to consider his mana as a mandatory travel tax and violently shoves our boy straight into the black abyss. Ars screams in pure panic as he gets sucked into the void like a literal rag doll. Karen just laughs off her assault, joking that the jump scare was good cardio for his lazy facial muscles. Yuria tells her sister to apologize later, but instantly shifts into a terrifying glare as she dives into the portal, leaving Elsa standing there silently. After those two left, Elsa is absolutely interrogating Karen. The stacked maid glares down at the redhead, completely roasting her for having bit sorry and never learning from her mistakes. Elsa crosses her arms and coldly offers to physically assist Karen with her attitude problem. Karen nervously asking what this psycho maid actually means by that. Elsa drops the heavy hammer, stating out loud that Karen is the sole reason our boy Ars walks straight into the women's bathhouse. Karen tries to play it cute, nervously waving her hands and acting shy while claiming she actually feels super bad about her dirty prank. Elsa straight up declares that the only man allowed to see her bare skin is the exact guy she plans to marry. The maid casually flexes that Ars agreed to take full responsibility for viewing her bakery. Karen's jaw hits the floor, completely shocked as she screams to know what actually went down in that steamy room. Trying to cope hard, Karen stammers that Ars is literally a clueless hobo and definitely did not mean his proposal like that. Elsa violently blushes, claiming her new fiancé did not hesitate for a single second. She swears he looked deep into her eyes and dropped his vow with absolute pure sincerity. You single viewers are probably crying right now seeing this top-tier waifu get claimed so easily. Suddenly, Elsa's face goes completely dark and demonic, glaring like a final boss, while declaring that any man who breaks his word will face unforgivable consequences. Yui peels her eyes and drops the most unhinged samurai vow ever, swearing she will literally slice her stomach open if another man ever sees her skin. Karen is sweating, begging her absolute psycho maid to chill out because her crazy loyalty stats are way too extreme. Then the redhead makes a fatal mistake, casually asking if the hobo just caught a tiny little glimpse of her in the water. Hearing the word glimpse makes Elsa completely twitch, her eyes going dead as her bath trauma gets triggered. She completely loses her mind, screaming at the top of her lungs and demanding to know what Karen is even talking about. The furious maid shouts that the homeless Chad literally saw absolutely everything. Facing this raw, unfiltered boss energy, Karen just shrinks down and lets out a pathetic little squeak of pure terror. Popping out of the teleport gate, Ars casually catches Yuria like a true Chad, Yuria blushing and apologizing for her sister's messy behavior. Suddenly, the portal violently spits Karen out like straight garbage. She crashes face first onto the hard stone, complaining that her master plan failed and karma just checked her. Elsa stands over the redhead with absolute murder in her eyes. The attractive maid gives a scary calm warning, making Karen panic as she realizes she has triggered the obsessive jealous lover situation. Ignoring the serious death threat, our hobo king suddenly says he needs to buy a dagger and some new clothes. Yuri gets confused and wonders why a guy who can kill wolves with magic needs a simple blade. Ars quickly explains his mana is not unlimited, so he wants physical weapons as backup in battle. Karen quickly recovers from almost dying, gives a thumbs up and tells them about a local guild shop called Deck Nest. She says they sell everything from heavy armor to cute plushies, surprising everyone with a really useful suggestion. Inside the shop, the group enters a very fancy and beautiful boutique. Yuria's eyes light up as she looks at the expensive displays, but Ars suddenly acts very charming. He looks at the blonde girl and casually says the beautiful atmosphere suits her perfectly. Before she can even react, he takes a white flower hairpin and puts it in her silver hair. He tells her it looks perfect on her, making the princess blush a lot. She happily decides to buy it, amazed by his natural charm. While the blonde girl is still flustered, Ars notices Elsa sneaking around the back shelves. The strict and scary maid completely drops her serious attitude and stares lovingly at a fluffy teddy bear. She gently holds the plushie to her chest, blushing like a soft-hearted girl. Ars walks over and asks if she wants to buy it, but she panics and quickly puts it back. She sadly says a cute bear would look lonely in her boring room. Ars immediately picks the bear back up and says that's exactly why she needs it. Ars gives the maid a simple idea, saying if she gets bored of the teddy bear, she can give it to some children later. Elsa's mind goes wild, and while looking at the bears, she suddenly imagines having a family. She pictures herself holding a newborn baby with Ars standing beside her like a proud father. Blushing hard, she hugs the bear to her chest and agrees they should buy it for their future children. Ars completely misses what she means and casually offers to pay for it himself. Likely refuses Ars money and says he will earn a lot of money soon anyway, as her future provider. Ars agrees that they should support each other financially, unknowingly sounding like he's making marriage promises. Bro, there's still time. You better realize what's about to happen to you. Anyways, Karen watches from the side without understanding, thinking the strict maid just really cares about helping children. Meanwhile, Elsa is already imagining a future family, planning for 2 boys, 2 girls, and maybe more if Ars agrees. She hugs the teddy bear tightly, feeling nervous and overwhelmed while thinking about the future. Ars finally notices Karen and asks what she is doing, making the flustered dairy panic and scream that nothing is wrong. Karen aggressively shoves our boy straight toward the weapon displays to stop the awkward vibe. They pull up to the glass cases and Ars stares at his empty wallet, realizing he can only afford basic bronze trash. Yuria walks right up next to him with that soft blonde energy, casually asking if he finally picked out his starter gear. Ars admits he has absolutely zero weapon knowledge, so Yuria instantly shifts into top-tier royal tactician mode. She grabs a slick blade explaining how magic conductivity boosts sharpness and hands it over because it perfectly matches his aesthetic. For his another hand, she picks a heavy-duty dagger that gets massively stronger when pumped full of raw mana. Ars immediately accepts her premium loadout, but suddenly realizes buying these twin blades leaves him completely broke for new clothes. Shifting to the sidelines, Karen and Elsa aggressively glare at the blonde princess, silently demanding her to shoot her shot. Yuria steps up blushing super hard, thanking Ars for saving her life and nervously offering to sugar mommy his entire wardrobe. Ars is totally shocked by the free handout, awkwardly asking if she is really sure about paying for his things. He admits he has literally never bought his own clothes before, so Yuria flashes a brilliant smile and promises to pick his outfits together. In the clothing shop, Karen holds up some heavy coats and asks Ars if he prefers a dark style, wondering which colors suit him. Ars just shrugs and says he doesn't really care. He looks at his black hair and wonders if his abilities affect his appearance, but decides his weak talent probably isn't related to his shadow type. Yuria notices a cool black trench coat that gives strong main character vibes. Karen agrees and says the material is almost bulletproof, so Ars immediately decides to buy it. Yuria practically begs him to try the fit on right now, her eyes sparkling like she is about to unbox a premium skin. Elsa hands over his new daggers with a fresh leather belt, acting like his personal loot manager. Ars steps out fully geared up and bro literally transformed from a street hobo into a certified menace. Yuria is absolutely drooling, squealing that he looks amazing. Karen instantly catches feelings too, blushing hard while Elsa just stands there staring at him like she completely blue-screened. The blonde princess gets worried and asks the strict maid what is going on in her head, knowing this psycho is plotting something unpredictable. Elsa tightly hugs her plushie and claims he looks fine, but internally she is already plotting their kid's private school admissions based on his fresh clothes. Bro really has this maid planning a whole PTA meeting in her head. Seriously, chat, this is what happens when you completely ignore a curvy girl who acts tough but secretly cares about you. Karen finally breaks the delusion and says the rest of the guild is waiting outside. But was shifting out to the forest border, the squad meets up with a bunch of random cloaked NPCs. Ars immediately spots the Fallen Kingdom's crest and realizes these are all village survivors. Karen looks super depressed, spilling the tragic lore that her whole guild was originally built just to save their home state. She admits they completely failed that mission, but 60% of her members still stayed loyal to the grind. Yuria steps up and gives her sister a massive emotional buff, telling her to stop beating herself up. Then the fiery redhead completely loses the plot, flashing this absolute psycho siscon smirk. She vows to build a brand new country exclusively dedicated to worshipping her blonde sister, while Ars just stands there sweating, brutally roasting her for being a massive weirdo. Karen snaps back to reality, commanding the squad to lock in because the Lost Lands are basically an unmoderated PvP zone, and ordering the fodder NPCs not to die. To soft but a pitigrail. Pushing deeper into the woods, our boy and the blonde bakery are casually strolling side by side. Yuria blushes and admits she is actually having fun on this deadly raid. But before Ars can even secure the romantic route, the literal earth starts violently shaking. A massive terrifying eyeball snaps open from the rocks right behind them with a loud crack. Karen just turns around like she forgot to send an email, casually dropping the worst tutorial tip ever. She gets her spear ready and warns them that the beginner enemies here are actually as strong as endgame bosses. Suddenly, a giant one-eyed monster named Cyclops appears right in front of them, and he is only wearing a handkerchief. It looks like everyone in this story likes to be naked. Karen steps up acting like a pro gamer, giving a whole tutorial about how this monster is dumb but hits hard. She warns the squad to strictly use long-range attacks to stay safe, while the stacked maid aims her bow from a log, telling the redhead to stop yapping and do her job. Taking the maid's heavy disrespect personally, Karen leaps straight into the air with her spear. She yells that nobody needs to tell her what to do and delivers an absolute raw flying strike right to the monster's giant eyeball. The heavy beast crashes face first into the dirt with a loud thud. Karen lands perfectly, while the surviving useless NPCs start glazing her skills. But before they can even celebrate the easy XP, two more massive Cyclops step out of the bushes. Karen suggests, why don't we just leave these two to Ars and Big Sister? Ars steps up next to Yuria and decides to turn this life-or-death raid into a casual minigame. He challenges the blonde bakery to a speedrun contest to see who can pack up their Cyclops faster. Yuria flashes a confident smile and instantly accepts. She declares that the person who loses has to pay for the winner's next shopping trip, and Ars just smirks and locks in the bet. Yuria instantly draws her glowing sword and starts dropping a whole premium anime chant. Yuria stints some majestic lore about crumbling cathedrals and comets, hyping up her ultimate finishing move called Eclair. With one raw flash of light, Yuria completely deletes her Cyclops, sending its severed head sliding off in a massive fountain of dark blood. Ars is just standing there, watches the brutal execution, and instantly admits defeat. Yuria drops a cute closed-eye smile, reminding him to get his wallet ready for their next mall date. Bro just gives a tired little wink, realizing he just got completely hustled by a princess with expensive taste. Watching this heavy flirting from the sidelines, Karen realizing a royal shopping list will completely bankrupt her guild's budget. Meanwhile, Ars finally steps up to his own untouched Cyclops. He figures this massive debt is going to hurt his non-existent bank account, so he might as well test a wild new theory. Bro deadass looks at the monster, raises his hand, and just casually says Eclair, trying to pirate Yuria's exclusive sword skill over Bluetooth. A tiny, pathetic little breeze blows past his hand, and absolutely nothing happens. Karen stares at his failed casting with the most deadpan, disappointed face ever. The silence is incredibly loud as ours just freezes in place like a disconnected controller. Finally, the redhead completely loses her mind, screaming at this absolute fraud for trying to copy a legendary skill and telling him to stop trolling. Karen awkwardly explaining that some legendary skills simply cannot be copied by randoms. She points out his trash, hearing gift, has absolutely zero connection to holy light magic. Ars just stares at his hand with a deadpan face, pretending to act surprised that nothing happened while secretly analyzing his failure. Suddenly, Ars completely violates the blonde bakery's personal space, casually sliding up to her. He asks to test something quickly and drops his bare hand directly onto her head like she is a loyal pet. Yuria blushes violently as Bro just strokes her hair, mentally activating a hidden skill called Imitate. She is standing there completely short-circuiting, confused about why this edgy hobo is suddenly giving her premium head pats mid-battle. Yuria steps back looking like a total final boss, and loudly declares the same exact finishing move, Eclair Lightspeed. The entire forest instantly glitches out, with flying birds completely frozen mid-air like their servers just crashed. Ars casually notes that Yuria was literally fighting in this frozen world, confirming her skill is completely broken. With zero hesitation, Ars draws his brand new dagger and casually rips a massive bloody slice straight through the Cyclops' giant ankle. Black blood explodes outward while Ars stands there panting, complaining that this stolen magic burns an absolutely insane amount of stamina. The time stop suddenly shatters and the massive boss violently crashes to the dirt. Ars casually stating that Yuria's raw talent is way more terrifying than he originally thought. Instead of finishing it properly, Ars decides to flex his own hack server stats. He summons an absolutely massive, terrifying spectral dragon head right out of thin air and yells Dragon's Roar. The giant dragon chomps down, completely vaporizing the Cyclops into a massive splash of dark blood. Ars stands over the deleted boss, casually dusting his hands off like he just took out the trash. Suddenly, Karen comes absolutely flying out of nowhere and violently slams straight into Ars like a heat-seeking missile. The massive impact knocks the wind right out of him, leaving him completely breathless while Karen panics and frantically apologizes for the heavy assault. She nervously explains that her flame gift passively boosts her physical stats whenever she gets hyped. Ars quickly brushes off the heavy impact and calmly asks Karen how she actually pulled off that crazy flying spear attack earlier. Karen instantly gets suspicious, yelling that she literally just watched him flawlessly steal her sister's legendary magic. Yuria steps in trying to play peacemaker and begging her sister to stop prying into his personal secrets. But Ars just smirks, admitting he never planned to hide his broken abilities forever anyway. He casually reveals that his trash hearing gift actually unlocks a subskill, allowing him to illegally pirate any spell he listens to. Yuria totally misses the point and just thinks it is a super convenient life hack. Ars explains he needs to hear the full chant first, making Karen realize he only agreed to the bet just to steal her sister's exclusive move. Ars awkwardly scratches his face and apologizes for the hustle, proving this hobo is literally out here running scams on royalty. After the heavy boss fight, Yuria flashes this absolute top-tier waifu smile. She completely ignores the trauma and says the hustle just made her even more hyped to drain his wallet at the mall. Ars is begging for not to go too hard. Bro survived a massive raid but is absolutely terrified of this blonde bakery's premium shopping list. Shifting deeper into the woods, a wild manticore suddenly jumps out for a sneaky ambush. Yuria does not even blink, whipping out her blade and instantly slicing the ugly beast perfectly in half. Karen slaps her forehead in pure disappointment, asking why she chopped the loot in half when they needed the head intact for crafting materials. Yuria drops the most broken excuse, claiming her heavy assets just move on pure reflex when she throws hands. Karen casually stares at the chopped up monster chunks, noticing they are all female mobs. Karen steps up with some wild lore, explaining that timid males only show up to defend their harem and sell for a massive premium on the market. Our hungry hobo king instantly gets dollar signs in his eyes and asks if they should go hunt a sugar daddy manticore right now. Karen quickly shuts down the hustle, pointing out the sun is setting fast and wandering the dark woods is basically asking to get totally wiped. Moving over to their new campsite, the squad drops a massive magic earth wall to block out the wild aggro. Ars nods in approval, admitting the thick perimeter defense is a totally solid survival hack. The stacked maid Elza finally steps out, announcing dinner is officially served. She drops a gigantic rice bowl topped with absolutely massive slabs of thick mystery meat right in front of them. Yuria instantly starts stuffing her face, happily chewing away while asking the strict maid what kind of premium steak she is serving. Elza casually glances over her shoulder and deadpans that it is literally freshly chopped manticore meat. The background NPCs immediately freeze mid-chew, violently sweating and crying in pure panic as they realize they just swallowed raw biohazards. Elza completely ignores their mental breakdowns, coldly stating the fiery redhead already acted as the official poison tester. The NPCs start screaming at Karen for secretly letting them eat toxic monster flesh, but Karen just sits there with a completely empty brain. The psycho maid then drops the wildest flex, claiming a sketchy beast man taught her the recipe and good food is literally worth risking death for. Meanwhile, Yuri is completely unfazed by the poison threat, her cheeks stuffed full of monster meat, as she brags about how amazing it tastes. Ars watches his blonde princess casually eat dangerous boss loot. He quietly wonders if she is just naturally built different, or if blindly trusting this unpredictable maid is actually a serious warning sign.